the sightseeing or tourism part. And now I'd like to welcome you to a discussion on some other buzzwords. We had many buzzwords. We had digitization, we had blockchain, we had, in one presentation I also have recognized IoT, Internet of Things. So now we have different buzzwords. You can see it here, 4PL services in chemical supply chains, and the subtitle opportunities and risk arising from the use of LLP and 4PL providers. So we have plenty of new buzzwords. I think the XPL and 7PL and 6PL and I don't know is missing here. It's really interesting if you are doing some research on that. Well, you know, I'm Professor Dr. Christian Killer. I don't like all my titles here, so it's fine for me. It's a funny name, Christian, but well, it's fine for me to call me like that. If you have a scientist here in front of you, he's thinking in 19-minute slots. And I have 90-minute slots. 90-minute slot. The first time I can talk to you for 90 minutes, but well, hopefully I am not alone then, and you, my four discussion partners, after my short introduction on this topic, will discuss with me, will discuss with each other, and will discuss with you. You have also some questions to my colleagues who will join me in a few minutes. I won't make it too long. Yes, I will start just right away. My agenda, we have had a study together with Chemical Management, so I go back once more. Thank you, Konstantin, for supporting in doing the work on this study. You can find the study, an executive summary of the study at the booth of DAXA. You can collect it there in German and in English. And I will show you some results here. We have found out here. I will start with the status quo. We've talked to many chemical experts, with managers. Afterwards, because we have learned, nobody really knows what 4PL is, or if you ask 3 people, what is a 4PL? You get 4 answers, 4 different definitions. So we try to bring some transparency into this 4PL, LLP, 3PL discussion. What is it? We have a different type of thinking here. Then we have identified that we have to deal in chemical logistics as well as in many other industries with frameworks, internal and external frameworks. And I will show you some ideas on that, and also I will offer you a guideline how to outsource your logistics to a logistics service provider, whoever it is, however he's calling himself. This guideline is very short, explained here in this context. The study you can find then afterwards on the internet of the BVL. You can download it. Here I will also offer a QR code. You can download it right now. Well, sorry, it's in German. But you have the executive summary, the DAXA booth. It's in English. There you have more information about it. Well, if you are talking with a scientist and you want to solve things, it's getting complicated, and that's how it will look like. Okay, so let's start with the status quo in chemical logistics. Just 2 questions out of plenty of questions we've asked. You can see here there are many people who think, well, I get along with 4PL and somehow I have a general overview, but there are really many who really don't know what 4PL is, what is the meaning behind, what is the competence, how can I work with this company. And if you have a look on the next slide with the answers on the outsourcing activities, focusing on the technical and strategical logistics services, so we don't talk about operational things like warehousing or transportation. Mostly you have in-house operations. And this is in many areas. You are talking about 4PL, then it's strategic. We're talking about strategic logistics service. So mostly it's still insourced. And so we thought about, well, maybe the companies in the logistics area, they don't trust in outsourcing these activities because they don't know what they can get. And this is why we have a step forward and thought about what is 4PL, LLP, and 3PL. Well, what is fourth-party logistics, lead logistics provider, third-party logistics. If you are looking on the supply chain, you have the different partners in the supply chain. On the one hand, you have the raw material, you have the chemical basic materials, the chemical finished products, and then you have your customer, final customer in the end, and in between you have the logistics partners. Okay, and you can split them. And you can have, in first place, the warehousing and transport operations. Okay, you have there the guys who are doing the work. Maybe you have integrated in larger companies and you're doing it with your own capacities, but in many cases you have specific companies who are serving one relation in the transportation area. So then 3PL is the next step, which is combining many different logistics actors who are doing the operations, who are doing the transportation and warehouse management, and offering something else. And then you have sometimes also this thinking about a lead logistics provider who is coordinating different 3PLs acting between two partners. And then you have the 4PL, which is coordinating the whole supply chain. This is the most common idea about what are these different kinds of partners here. But nonetheless, now you are still arguing about, well, what is the service behind? What is a 3PL provider offering? What is a 4PL provider offering exactly? So we went a step back, had a look on what these different partners are normally offering, and then we thought of something else. So we asked ourselves, why should we talk about the partners acting in this area? Why shouldn't we talk about the service which are ordered or which is needed, demanded by the customer? So turn the way back and ask yourself, what is the customer, what does the customer need? Well, and I don't care about if I'm a 4PL or 3PL or whatever. And this is the idea behind. Okay, so think like Jeff Bezos, look at your customer and then work backwards. And this is the idea we had about defining this 3PL, 4PL discussion. We defined different levels of services and the areas these services are offered by the different partners or should be offered by different partners. So it's a bit different. You don't ask about, well, I need a 3PL for doing the business, for doing my outsourcing project. No, it's the other way around. I need someone who's dealing with operational logistics, with some value-added services. And then, well, it might be a 3PL or an LLP, but it doesn't matter. So this is the idea behind, just placed and focused on what is the demand of the customer according to the services, and what are the abilities of the different players you can find in the market. What should they be able to offer? So we are beginning with the freight forwarders and storage companies, carriers, which are mostly in the executional area. Core competence is doing things in transporting things or storing things. But also this is a competence of 3PL company. Of course they have their warehouses, of course they have their often their capacities of transportation, but also they have value-added services. And this is also a competence of lead logistics provider, plus some technical services with value-added services in the logistics area, very customer specific, but this is also possible to transfer to a 4PL provider, but he's, because of this idea of dealing with the whole supply chain, more or less on this strategic level. So this is a change, we thought, a better approach to give more transparency into this discussion of 4PL, 3PL, and so on. And this is why we are discussing this with market players. We are talking with a consultant, we are talking with a shipper, an industry company, we are talking with a logistics service provider, and within, I think you have on your website 4PL as your one core competence. So this, but first, some more what we should expect here: frameworks, effect, recommendations, potential and risk. What is there? Bad news in first place. Complexity differs in 14 dimensions. So you have plenty of different dimensions, and you can combine them in network dynamics and dependencies on external and internal impacts. You can find this information in the study, but you can combine them, and this is the good news, and find who is dealing with the different complexities, who can get along with the different complexities. This is very specific for the chemical logistics. Before that, it's very special. This is the good news. There are partners who can deal with that. But also, and this is what you always get out of the focus, motivation for logistics outsourcing should be defined internally. You have to have the appropriate culture in the company to work with these different partners, and you have to think about what is the role of logistics in the strategy of the company. If you have the wrong strategy according to logistics, you cannot work with every partner. And now the guideline, I get very fast through it, just to get an idea. We have defined 7 steps. First, what is the motivation for the outsourcing? Second, what is my internal framework? And then you can find out which is the best fitting partner here. Second, this is the next part. You combine these information, motivation, and internal framework. You can see if it fits, and afterwards then, if you have a fit, then you can go further on and find out verification of matching, which complexity can be solved. Then you can identify which processes, which services can be solved, and afterwards you can get also an idea about how to work together, how to build up, to design the contract. Otherwise you have to check if it's slightly different, or you have to adjust. Just the idea here. Here is the study about it in summary, and this is what we are talking about. Logistics is more. You have provider models, but you cannot divide them sharply because they have different types of services. You have very many complexities, and not every partner can solve this complexity, so you have to find out which one fits the best. And you have to deal with your internal framework. You have to do your homework, your own homework afterwards. So this is what we are now discussing about. If, on the one hand, the scientists have had a good idea in doing something like this guideline, and on the other hand, what is the experience in working together with different types of provider models? So please welcome in this context Mr. Kai Althoff from 4Flow. He's Chief Operating Officer, but then you will also introduce yourself a bit more in detail. Please come along. Then Dr. Andreas Backhaus, coming from BASF, Senior Vice President this is somehow automated. I don't do anything here. Sorry from BASF.
Anyway,
welcome. Senior Vice President, European Site Logistics Operation. Then Michael Kriegel from DAXA Chem Logistics, Department Head of this Chem Logistics. And Konstantin Reuter from Camelot, my colleague who has also written the study. Nice to meet you here in this. Because it is much easier if you introduce yourself, and I'm not doing it because there are so many things I can do wrong. Andreas, so welcome, and just introduce yourself, and maybe one topic in between. What is, in this context, if you're telling us about your work, what you're doing, what is, in your point of view, the largest, the biggest challenge in chemical logistics?
Can be. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Andreas Backhaus. I'm working now for many years for BASF, a well-known chemical company, not only in Southwest Germany, I think it's all over the world. So, actually, starting as an engineer, I changed my field. In this times, logistics you could not study, which is different today, and learned it on the hard way. Now I'm more than 20 years in the logistics supply chain arena. I had several positions over there. In the last 2.5 years, I'm in charge for site logistics and our large site in Ludwigshafen, but also in all our European sites. So that's my background. I'm an engineer. Actually, the biggest challenges for the time being is actually digesting business. And I think I'm certainly not alone here in this room by having this challenge. Get the volumes done, get the equipment on site, and for sure also off site to our customers. It's an availability of personnel, because we're working with a lot of third-party service providers. We will come to this. So they have the same issue sometimes. Infrastructure is another challenge, and actually to safeguard German government a little bit. It's not only the public infrastructure, it's also our own infrastructure, because our facilities are also aging. It's also what's coming up now. We have the one-size-fits-all approach does not work anymore. Even for large chemical companies, we see more and more service differentiation, and this is something we have to get used to it and to get adjusted. And if you just for the last decades only work on efficiency and cost, it's a kind of a paradigm change we're going through. And this might be an interesting then building the bridge also for third parties or fourth party service provider, what they might offer in this area. Okay?
Thank you. So let's have a look on the other side of the table.
But I will stay here.
Yes, sure. But well, if you're if it's more comfortable, just go ahead. But so yeah, just a short introduction, and then what is, in your point of view, the largest challenge in chemical logistics?
Thank you, Christian Kille. It's a globally operating logistics company with more than 400 branches worldwide. DAXA has worked closely together with the chemical industry, with BASF as well. In 2007, we founded a specific industry solution for the chemical industry, DAXA Chem Logistics. In addition to our standardized processes, DAXA Chem Logistics meets the special requirements of the chemical industry. We focus on the transportation and warehouse of packaged goods, hazardous and dangerous goods. Yeah, and to give you an idea about the size of DAXA Chem Logistics, DAXA European Logistics, our business field for industrial goods in general, received in 2017 a turnover of 3.6 billion euro. 10% of this account comes from the chemical industry. Yeah, and last but not least, some words from my side regarding the current status. Compared to the first quarter of 2017, the VCI announced a production growth of 6.7% in the first quarter of 2018. And it's our goal to manage the rising amounts of goods which results from the positive economic development.
Once more, the capacities. Kai, your business model is more special, and it's somehow in between, isn't it? Because it's dealing with IT and logistics, and maybe you have both types of customers, the industry and the logistics service providers. So tell us about your idea, well, yourself and your idea of the largest challenge.
Thank you very much, Christian. Yeah, of course I would like to do that. So my name is Kai Althoff. I'm responsible for global operations at 4Flow. What we actually do at 4Flow is very easy to put in a nutshell. We want to deliver measurable results by the optimization of our clients' logistics and supply chain management processes and structures. And as we honestly believe in the strategic decisions of our clients, we do that by different business lines. So if our clients prefer to do optimization projects, we have a business line consulting where we do holistic supply chain management and logistics optimization. For those who need additional tools and methods for optimization, we have our service line software. And I think one of the reasons I'm allowed to be here today, thank you very much for that, we have a third business line where we do what we call as well 4PL services. And I was very happy, actually, our definition is very close to what you presented. I don't know anybody who would say it's the general definition either. Everybody speaks about different stuff there. So for those who think that the optimization of their networks might not be their core competence, or might not be something they could do very quickly because they had to invest heavily in people, in know-how, skills, in IT, we are able to deliver that too. So there we work as a 4PL to do logistics optimization. We are acting worldwide with 550 people in the main business areas on the globe. We are a Berlin headquartered company. In these times it's something nice to say. When we founded 4Flow, we were only poor and sexy in Berlin. Now we stand for something different there that makes things sometimes easier. Yeah, I hope that lifted some of what does actually 4Flow do. The major challenges, I don't want to add anything, so that would be quite silly. It is what it is. And from my personal experience, there's another thing we forget in such situations in the market. Every upturn is followed by a downturn, and that's for sure. It's just a question, when will it come and how heavy will it hit us? And from my point of view, complexity, as you presented it, is one of the major challenges in the chemical industry, and how to handle this complexity and to handle it in a way that we are efficient and that we are flexible. Flexible in terms not only of coping with volume, but flexible also in our cost positions. And that, of course, is a special challenge in the chemical industry where it is so investment intensive. And I think that is at the moment one of the challenges which is not enough in the minds of the people because we have to deliver. And there's nothing worse than not delivering to a client requirement.
Thank you. So complexity, one. We have an additional microphone. Hand it over. So Konstantin, we've worked several months on this topic, and well, we had 3 experts. Normally one would say everything said, but as I know consultants, you always have something to add, haven't you?
Of course, because
Just
it always
introduce him first time.
Okay, so my name is Konstantin Reuter. I'm working for Chemical Management Consultant. We're focusing on value chain management for chemical and pharmaceutical industry. And myself, I worked for 12 years in chemical industry. I'm now 9 years working in this consultancy area. And yeah, we get a lot of questions concerning 4PL services, 4PL setups, companies. And we felt that, yeah, first part of the project time is more kind of talking with the customer about their targets, what they're looking for, to find the right partner, which I think is the most important thing, to have a long-term relationship for whatever the the model is called, if it's a 4PL or LLP. I think it's important that everyone knows what kind of service he likes to outsource. And at the end, for me, however it's called, it's an outsourced decision, like a make or buy. And this must be prepared. And for me, to answer the question about what is the challenges that we see at the moment on the market, you used the buzzword also before, digitalization. I think this is a nice buzzword, it's important. but reality shows from our perspective that a lot of customers are not ready to take part in this digitalization. From internal master data, process harmonization, but also from the political side, the bigger the company is, then the more, of course, alignment and change management is required, which is sometimes not a show blocker, but a strong slowdown to implement these kind of projects. And in our point of view, 4PL or LLP plus, whatever the name is, concept could help the companies to get over this internal politics, to enable process harmonization, but also take part in this digitalization in using IT solutions that are on the market. But of course, this is also very, I would say, individual on the customer situation. Like I think bigger companies like BASF, they have the power and the financial background to think about this, like develop on developments. Also have the size to discuss with SAP enhancements on actual software. And there are smaller companies who have not the power, who would be glad to have a modern system, but then maybe they would use an exit solution or Transporion or whatever's on the market. So,
decision about it. Yes.
yeah.
Well, yeah. So we had many different challenges, but I'd like to focus on also, because we have here different partners and they have to work together with each other. What is the experience about it? Because this is what we are talking about when we try to define or try to find out what 4PL, 3PL, and so on is. Mostly you have at least two partners. And also in the discussion before and the presentations before, there was always not only one single partner, there were many partners. They have to interact with each other. So now you have to interact with many partners. Your company is not only a company as it's more or less very huge. I've written down the universe you've loved as you have, because it's a small town you have to deal with. And so, okay, you have many internal interfaces, but this is what maybe is interesting, but I think here in this context is interesting. What is your experience to work together with external partners? You have to deal with many different interfaces, many different types of companies, from small to large, from IT-oriented to more or less paperwork or something like that. Would be great. Yes.
Well, Christian, that's really an interesting question. And sometimes I'm not quite sure if it's a bigger challenge to have to work with our internal partners within the company or with the external partners. Because it's a large company, it's true. I don't want to see it as a universe, because it's in a very different area. But it's large, and the size as such is not necessarily a benefit, because you have to manage it, and we just had the word complexity, and for sure this is increasing complexity. Sometimes the companies in a holding structure, they are smaller units, they might have a little bit less complexity. But nevertheless, we see a lot of strength to stay together as this large company, and we have to streamline and to manage this complexity. By the way, the physical logistics I'm standing for is one of the guarantees that the big site that Ludwigshafen with its logistics and its buffers is manageable at all. We're reducing the complexity in the physical flows, otherwise it would not be possible to do business there. Yeah? This is the pride we are having within the company, and people understand that meanwhile, which is a good thing. So for sure we're working with a lot of external partners. It's on your chart and in the different levels. It's more on the lower level, so it's service providers, transportation, warehousing. What we see in the last years, and I really like to discuss with the colleagues, some of them are sitting in the room, there are a lot of innovation-driven partners. And we have the discussion within the company, there are people that say they just should provide the service, deal done. I see it differently. These guys, our partners, have a lot of interesting ideas, and I want to participate. I want to use these ideas, and with partners, I mean this word in the true sense of the meaning, to develop new things. There are certain things we keep in the company because we are deeply convinced it's It's a part of our strategic part. You know, every time I have a strategic dialogue with one of our business units, I start with a provocative statement that, you know, I'm only logistics, and I know this is not the core process of a chemical company, but it's quite important for the customer performance. And they always contradict. They say, no, this is one of our core things. So don't, you know, keep it, and develop it. But to have the technology in-house, the right IT solutions, and now come into digitization in the future, and I do not talk about automation, I talk about digitization, which is a big difference. For sure, we need strong partners. Also, our IT structure, our IT architecture is going to change the next couple of years. You know? Even SAP is changing, and it's true. We discussed with SAP about these things. So solutions coming from the marketplace will play a much bigger role than in the past. So it's maybe a different level of cooperation we will have in the future. In the past, actually, our 4PL experience is quite limited because we did many things in-house because we also have the critical size to do so.
And just to add another question on that, you have also partners besides the logistics service providers, you have also your customers. And there you have different types of companies, and small to large. And is it, as Konstantin has mentioned, that the smaller ones are, well, also like the logistics service providers, one has to say, waiting for what is happening with the digitization and what is happening there, and I don't know how to deal with the logistics and so on. What is your point of view on this area? Do you have experience in that? I think it's not your business, but
no, it is my business. Actually.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
core of my business. The whole company we started a couple years backwards about we call it BVLs Forum. You know, how to digitize the company. It's a very strategic move, and for the time being, it's a huge discussion on a higher strategy level how to go forward with that. Within logistics, we're just realizing digitized solutions on the side, but also somewhere else. We're really pushing it wherever it's possible. It has to be sensible. And there are for sure things that are not sensible. But many things are sensible, and people open up, you know, my internal spender, so to say, the people that give me the money, they open up for these kind of solutions. The digital solutions fix some of our issues. They fix flexibility issues. They fix all the different requirements our larger, smaller, or mid-sized customers have to us. And for sure, we also develop, and that's what we're doing, we're developing solutions with our customers. The customers is our focus. Actually, they pay my salary every month, and this should be clear for everybody. So, and we have good examples over the last couple of years, where with a horizontal integration, for instance, bring them together on the same data flow, on the same planning systems, you get more business, and that's proven. So you don't have to convince people if we do it, it's just how we do it. And even logistics, we do many things. I think some of the colleagues here might have been last year in Ludwigshafen. We're just changing our internal transportation system from a good old-fashioned railway system to an autonomous driving of big trucks. That's just one example, but it's very, very tangible.
Okay, thank you. And what is your opinion? You are once more on the other side of the table.
Yes. I would like to go back to the physical transport of the shipments of BASF. We feel, what really become apparent in our sector, additionally to the lack of drivers, is a lack of loading capacity. And this will be, in our opinion, a crucial growth factor for all industries in the future. And in Germany and in several other European countries, we had a lot of problems to find the right drivers, the right equipment on the right place. And in peak times, it's becoming more and more critical to find this equipment. And these capacity bottlenecks push up costs, to be very honest, and we have to pass on this to our customers. But in our opinion, the ways we have to find ways how we can combine information, that we get this information as early as possible from your side to find ways to produce peaks and to reserve capacity. Sorry, One last sentence regarding the lack of drivers. Especially in Germany, we are moving towards an alarming lack of drivers. And in our opinion, this problem will become more and more acute in the future. And I would like to go back to the growth of the chemical industry. This growth has to be physically handled. And in our opinion, the sooner the logistics provider receives information, the sooner he can act and react to it.
So you have to work together.
Absolutely.
And closer. It's a real partnership. You want to add something?
Can I add something? I think that's quite very interesting example.
Yeah.
Just talked about the loading stations. Yeah? And we have some really congested loading stations. We're working this. We have certain assets. Before we start building new assets, what we also do is we're now using digital methods, yeah, to let these assets sweat in a better way. Yeah. So this is just setting people, coordinating things, and then developing systems. They make it in 1 or 2 years for them. So we can sometimes increase our existing capacity by 40% without any construction, only using smart systems to do so. And people, don't forget that. You know? First we need the people, then we can do it with systems in a better way. But you also all have to be more flexible if it comes to working hours. We just checked our main loading stations, and there's still these peak hours. And you know, after 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's very hard to get a provider to pick up some goods. Just as a hint.
Well, yeah, I want to add something.
Yeah, from my point of view, I would like to kick in at one word I have heard a lot of times here. I heard the word "we have to," or in English you can say "you must" as well, which is closer to the German one. And I think, sorry, but this is very old thinking. If we understand that still as we have to, we will not be competitive anymore in future. Going back to our topic here, we speak about speeding up, handling complexity, reducing cost, being flexible. One of the means is digitalization. We are not speaking in the chemical industry that we focus on the plants here and the locations. We will focus much more on the supply chains here in terms of digitalization. But what is the reason of that? One of the reasons is to collaborate, to bring the parties together. And if we are then still operating with one another in a way where we say we have to, we will not succeed. And about 15 years ago, everybody was speaking about collaborative supply chains and come on, it's a win-win situation, we share the benefits. And I think that was the wrong expectation. Because it raised the expectation that actually there are euros on the table and the service provider gets 50 cents and the industrial companies, the shippers get 50 cents too. That was the expectation which was raised. Human nature and corporate behavior is not really supporting that expectation. So I think today we are much more savvy there. We know if we do it, we have a chance to stay in business and to grow and to be more competitive than the others. And I think that is very important here. And in the discussions I had yesterday on the boat and around here as well, I think what is really needed is, apart from all the technology which we can apply to do jobs without people, it's about cooperation between corporations too. And I think we have to understand that nobody of us, of this table, and I think it's nicely said because indeed everybody has different roles in the supply chain here, we will have to cooperate, we have to work together, and if it is fun to work together, we will even achieve more. So I would like to raise the question here, if it is really still perceived as a have to, because we don't perceive it like that. As a 4P, one of our really core competencies is to bring everybody together in a working framework. And one thing is for sure, if you don't like to work with one another, you will not cooperate.
Yes.
Didn't you just say we have to cooperate?
I did. I did, and I didn't want to be aggressive towards one of us. I use the words too, because we say it like that. but we cannot behave like that. And I think that's the difference.
That's the point.
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree with you because it is very important to find the right partner to work together. It's like a marriage. You don't want to marry anybody, and in some contexts you work together like in a marriage because you have to trust with each other. And if you get divorced, it is very hard. Also, if you are working together with a logistics service provider, if you are talking about the tactical and strategic level, of course you can just push out a transportation company because you don't have any connections here. You should cooperate. I have learned from my wife, you should use
I would
the
say
word
have to
you
again.
should, and you don't have to say you have to. But is in the chemical landscape, you have different types of companies, very broad types of companies, very large ones, very small ones. And would you agree, Konstantin, because you work together with all these types of companies, the small and large ones, that they want to cooperate, that they are also able to cooperate because they have different cultures in their companies. I don't want to give an example from another industry, very large in Germany, with some struggles. But what's your experience here? Are they all able to cooperate with their mindsets in the companies?
Yes and no. It depends who you ask. I think the idea to use this kind of technology, digitalization, which I think like in the presentation before from the part with GPS is having the marriage. I think digitalization is a way to enable the cooperation. But I think you have kind of the technical cooperation which would work. But I think the main success factor, as you mentioned, are the people working with it. And a lot of people are very, of course, afraid of losing the job. Don't understand what they can do or why things are being done, because of top-down, and it's not really, let's say, supported from a communication. Then it's quite hard to convince the people to use these new opportunities that we have through the digitalization. And I think this is one of the main challenges. And also, if you use the software and the tools that you have, and you do not have prepared the backbone, which are contracts, races, who's doing what are cut-off times, and you don't respect it, then it will not work. Like what you would need really is a higher degree of standardization. Yeah? And at the moment, or lots of companies, of course, logistics is the part who fixes things. So if my production is late, a batch is not good enough, or you couldn't mix it to the quality you promised to the customer, then it's always logistics. It's the last mile that you can speed up through drivers, you go to air freight instead of sea freight, and so on and so on. And this is something that it's not solving the problem. You're just firefighting, but you're not fighting or working on the source of the fire. And this is something which I think this needs to come on a higher degree, also top down, to have more the value chain in the view and the supply chain, instead of, okay, this is the department, and I did everything right, but the others didn't fix it in time. And this is a really huge effort in change management. And I don't say the bigger the company, the more difficult it is, because the bigger the company, the more subsystems you have, the ecosystems, each with its right to exist, of course. But sometimes you have to challenge it and then to develop the ecosystems in one or other direction to have them the full scale of benefits from the new technologies available.
Good point. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I would like to add some experience on this particular topic why I kicked in there so heavily. If we do, for example, a project where we digitalize the inbound supply chain of an industrial company, a chemical company maybe, whom do we integrate there? We integrate suppliers and service providers. Our experience is, and I hope it's not due to a lack of competence on our side, that speaking about suppliers in terms of integrating them in digital technologies, processes, organizational structures, 1/3 is doing it with the first presentation and with the first trainings you give them, and everything is fine. You set up the interfaces, technological work, you don't hear of them again. A second third, you have to do literally one call to motivate them again, and they will do it. And there's another third which is really heavily hesitant to do that due to several reasons, and the root causes are very different there. So, but what I want to say, it is indeed one of the obstacles to integrate that. In the, if I look at the logistics service providers, the requirements and the framework is even more difficult. If I look on a global scale, logistics service provider markets are multi-tier markets. You showed us one of your multi-tier pictures there where you said we have warehousing, transportation, then 3PL, then LLP. This picture is not complete. Usually within transportation you have several layers. Within warehousing you have different situations which create layers too. And to reach down actually to where the supply chain is and create a system where you can as well handle the changes in partnerships and structure which take place every day. I think that is a mega challenge, and if you don't solve it with a good cooperation as well, we will not succeed in digitalizing the supply chain.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a question on this topic here in the audience? Maybe you have an experience you want to share with us. So now you are prepared that in a few minutes I will ask you once more. So maybe you can think about one or another question. Otherwise, if I have lectures, mostly I look around and ask someone just by a chance. Someone who's maybe doing something else than listening, someone maybe sleeping or something like that. So be aware, maybe I ask you to have a question here too. Okay, so, but let's stay with you because you have, of course, I think everybody of us have also some experience in other industries, but as you have won this German Logistics Award from the BVL with AGCO and from the agricultural machinery area for machinery for farmers, you have some insights in this industry. I think you have also many other insights in other industries. Let's benchmark. Where is the position of the chemical industry? Is it far behind or far ahead?
As we all know, benchmarking is a very difficult thing to do if frameworks are so different as they are in the agricultural industry and the chemical industry. And the chemical industry, we all know, we speak a lot about bulk liquids, we speak about dangerous goods, we speak about batch production. The capital employed the level is much different. So on the technical level, there's no comparison between those industries, I must honestly say. And this is probably true for whole discrete manufacturing compared to the discrete manufacturing compared to the chemical industry. But if we go 2 levels higher, we see that if we want to make use, and I'm going back to our topic here, 4PL services, if we want to make use of 4PL services in the chemical industry, we have the same challenges. Because some of the challenges we already discussed, but we have additional challenges. And my perception is as well, we should always start from internal to external. As you said before too, in a little bit different words, sorry if I quote you wrong. So we have to do a job which is cross-functional. So we have to build bridges, and we have to start within the companies. And cross-functional, what does that mean? That means in many, many companies that decision is made for very easy questions and for questions which are sometimes really having a much too low impact for that on a board level, because purchasing and production might meet on a board level if you really escalate. So for these projects, we need top management support to really succeed. And that is the same in agricultural as it is, or in the whole discrete manufacturing world, as it is in from my experience as well in the chemical industry. We have similar changes, challenges as well in IT infrastructure. On the one hand, we have big projects going on with the existing IT infrastructure, which can, in many cases, congest the IT development departments a lot. And in parallel, we want to have a revolution in the supply chain based on new IT. So there's a conflict about resources, financial and personal resources, the same in both industries from my point of view. A big obstacle. And the last one is, and being from Berlin, I have to speak about something very unsexy, data. Data, nobody wants to hear that word, I know. It's, of course, as we all know, one of the biggest challenges, and that is the same in both worlds. And I think that there it's very comparable.
So you agreed, you work on collecting data, doing something with data, sharing data. What is your innovation you want to do in this context to offer to the customers? Maybe to get somewhere also a logistics award for the solution you have developed there with that.
We will see. Thanks, Christian, for the question, because yesterday some of the colleagues asked me, Mr. Kriegel, what is the DAXA way? What are you thinking regarding digitalization? And we have a very clear statement for this. We are meeting the challenge of digitalization the DAXA way. Objectively, analytical, sustainably, and very important, without blindly jumping on the latest bandwagon. For us, digitalization mainly offers to combine our different networks, transportation on the street, on the air, and also our network for warehouses together. And one very practical example for digitalization, and in our opinion, is we reduce paperwork for short distance process. Very easy way to work with data together with customers. And you asked me regarding the future. To ensure we set benchmarks for digitalization also in the future, we established the DAXA Enterprise Lab in the Fraunhofer Institute. This is a very big step for us, and among other things, researchers lab is connecting with some buzzwords, asset tracking and big data application, and such as predictive logistics planning. And we expect the lab will generate further ideas, useful ideas for us, because we want to remain a pioneer in our sector regarding specific digitalization application with which add value.
Is it a partner for you, Andreas? So you would say, this is the right direction. He's coming close, so now he's on the safe side of the table.
First of all, I have to fight with him, otherwise he would not be a partner for me. That's the way. We have to fight about content, we have to fight about solutions, then find the best solutions. Always in a respectful way. That's what we also try to do within the company, which is not easy to change mentality, where we have a very consensus-driven. And if you really start to fight with people within, hey, don't take it personal, I want to have the best solutions. So on the digitization path, I have a slightly different opinion. I think sometimes you just have to try things out. We have analyzed and paralyzed ourselves over decades. And then after 3 years in analytics, we found out it might be not interesting. And this is not the time anymore in these days, because things are going like this. Within months, we have new solutions. So we just start, which is a big challenge for some people, try out things and stop things because they failed. And that's a mentality which is not in our, let me say, my Teutonian behavior, because if you fail, you're a loser. No, it's not true. It's not a loser. It's a risk take. Yeah? And that's to bring this spirit in even a large corporation is not easy, but and people, you see that people have more fun doing this. If you are allowed to fail with innovations, they will jump to go to the next innovation and stay creative. And that's something we have to keep and even develop. So for sure, it should be sensible to a certain extent, but also sometimes just do things. Yeah? So I'm with him and I'm not with him at the same time. But
So
for
you're
sure-
fighting with each other.
But I
as
like people, companies, they really think about this. And not you have to, in Germany we say you have to some Jagen tragen. You have to carry them for hunting. This is not really interesting so much because for sure transport I cannot get everywhere anymore in these times, but usually it's much more better to have smart partners that always think about the things. And sometimes reflecting, I have good partners that say, you know what you guys are doing is quite interesting. Have you thought it from this perspective? And then I go into the organization and say, I got an interesting outside-in view, and are we really sure we're doing the right things here? That's good. Yeah, this is helping us to overcome certain things.
Let's have a look behind the curtain. What are you planning to try? Let's say like that, to just test balloon or something like that.
Sure. For the time being, what do we try? We have a lot of bulk loading in our sites. Yeah? We're just preparing our first trial to do a fully automated bulk loading. No person involved, nothing. Which is technically feasible, but for sure far away from what we do for the time being. It's actually starting with safety, not so much only efficiencies, but also you can do it around 24/7 and these kind of things. This is an example. What we do already, that's not a trial anymore, we do it, we run big trucks autonomically on the site. This is now ramping up. And then there are other sites also doing things with partners together, exchanging data. Data is for sure, with a lot of data and the right algorithms, you can avoid things. You can avoid double work, you can avoid extra mile transportation, and all these kind of things. So these things are very important. Also, large organizations tend to tayloristic approaches. We just heard it in some of the statements. And we have to kill this. Tayloristic approaches seems to be very efficient, but it's not. At the end of the day, it's not efficient at all. It has to be an end-to-end approach, and that's the biggest challenge I see, also system-wise, to bring this together, and not only within their own company, with all the partners. And we see where we bring the whole supply chains together on a system base, you're really much more successful and can bind all your customers more to you.
So we have here two partners with degree. You are a consultant. What would you recommend? So, go ahead.
Project, of course.
No, I think coming back to your question, where's chemical industry compared to other industries?
Like a politician, you avoid to answer the question I have asked. But go ahead. Just
The point is, for me, I see chemical industry compared to others, like we focus in chemical and pharmaceutical, okay, but we're also of course doing automotive and FMCG and so on. I think chemical industry is very conservative, and I think the thinking of keeping the actual situation is very strong. And I don't know, I mean, everyone reads this management small books. There's one book, Cut My Cheese, which is really nice to read. And there's the one mouse who's sitting on the cheese mountain or hill, which is getting smaller, but there's still enough cheese on it. So it's not starving the mouse. And then the other one, the seekers, going around and looking for new solutions. And I think looking at the capacity situation that we're having at the moment, I think the more regulation points for the dangerous goods and transportation, this cheeseburger is getting smaller. It's still one course, it's not anymore two courses or something, but you need to be active. You need to drive this development to look for new ideas in collaboration. This is starting from yard management to make it more attractive for carriers to come to your site. Because sometimes they're not coming. If they have to wait 4 hours to load, they're not interested in your business anymore. But also, I think on the company side itself, don't wait until the yard is blocked, because you look out of your window and you see it, and act proactively. And this is sometimes what we feel is missing, which is good for our business, of course. But to have this spirit, as you said, you're allowed to fail. If you don't try anything, you can't improve, you can't learn, which is normally nature of mankind to survive. But of course, to keeping his actual assets, positions, people, and so on is quite more important than looking forward. And I think this is one of the challenges amongst all of the others. Like it is complex, supply chain, to overcome and to work on that one.
So, some questions. Yes, here we have a question that you, or an experience you want to share, or something like that.
There is a question. Coming back to one of your very first slides where you introduced different levels where the 4 BVLs, the LLPs, and 3 BVLs are, as you see it. You have at the very top of the pyramid the strategic tactical level. And then on the, if I got it correctly, on the left-hand side, the 4 BVL covering those. So what I'm wondering from your perspective, what's the reason or what's the benefit for a medium-sized or even a large-scale company in the chemical sector to think about sourcing on the strategic level?
That's a good question.
It's your project.
We have, so there's a modeling behind, of course, what kinds of services is in the different layers of this pyramid. The sourcing is, interestingly, we don't see it as strategic, we have it in the tactical part. It is some kind of strategic. And the question or the fear that is on the market, what we experience on the market with 4BL concept, is how can they be neutral, can they be so better than I can do it. But for me, this is a little bit the wrong thinking. It's, of course, you have to get a good price on the market. But the money is not in the market, it's in the process, over all departments. And so for me, strategic starts for me with the network design. Is do I have the right setup? Do I have the right infrastructure points for import, export, for cross-docking, whatever? And then the setup later on the operations and the purchase, how I run my network.
Okay, so it's more from your perspective, the execution of the supply chain strategy. So if I have to deliver to a certain customer, a certain kind of product within certain SLAs, then of course you have to have the right network, and that is where, from your perspective, the strategic decision in this process. Yes. Okay, then fine.
But also with the point like what you mentioned, you have in the ERP systems like SAP, and you have of course the possibility to also have a logistics service level. Not okay, this is my ABC customer in terms of turnover, but you also can go in more differentiation in kind of what kind of service do you offer. And this is an opportunity that very few companies, so I don't know one, uses in their system to really say have an ABC service in saying this customer must be delivered on time in the direct slot. Other customers, they can be delivered within a week, so I only give them a delivery confirmation for a week, and then I have a 48-hour clear advice, for example, when the goods are coming, so that you're prepared to take the goods in, of course. And this kind of flexibility, which I see then more in the terms of transport management and what you can do with transport management systems, is sometimes required to cope with the capacity challenge that everyone is facing at the moment. But of course, this is also something a rethinking, like my customer first. Yeah, of course, but if you look what kind of turnover you have, what is your margin, and what effort you put to serve this customer, this is sometimes in a very big disbalance. Disbalance because you do not know the cost for this service. And normally the one who calls you more often gets the better service because he gets in your nerves. Because you do not have a defined service. And therefore this is something from the system. Everything that fails to a deviation in the constant and processing optimization of processing a transport order or customer delivery address in the system costs you more time. And this is what was mentioned before for the MERS example, like 50% is administration costs. But this is cost you don't see in the system because only few customers have a logistics controlling in place, also taking into consideration what is the called costing customers giving.
Can I comment on this? I'm playing the bad guy again. I think after this kind of technocratic answer, sorry to say, no, I think to make just make it. No, there was a clear question. Where does it make sense to go on a strategic level to a 4th BL, right? And I think it makes a lot of sense if you're in a company, whatever the size is, if you have a lack of the strategic, capacity or capability. So my recommendation would be, if this is not existing, you look a good partner, and it must be the right partner, absolutely. You develop this, and then the company has to decide, is this something which is very important to me, then I would insource this because it's strategic. I would never let strategic things, with a partner, or I leave it like the way it is.
of course, I would like to add something there. As it is a core competence of us to offer that service. And I agree definitely with what you said, that is the motivation behind. So I think what is not right to do is to outsource strategic decision making. That's for sure. But strategy work is not only decision making. I think that, didn't make a study on that, but decision making is maybe 5% of the work, if you look at working hours, and preparing decision making is maybe 95% of that work. And what we, irrespectively to the size of our clients, see is that strategic decision making preparation is on the one hand, or should be perceived as a core competence, but this is not always treated like that. What does a core competence mean? It means you invest in know-how, in skills, in methods, in IT, in all of that within strategic departments. Everybody can answer themselves if they do that or not. And if it comes to the core of what we are discussing here, to be honest, if we speak about 4PL, my understanding of logistics is much broader than the scope of a 4PL. So going back to the 4PL, we speak about logistics networks consisting of warehousing and transportation. And what kind of strategic evaluations you are doing there. So you compare different scenarios for the network. You are deciding on how to integrate new structures, new suppliers, new plants, new clients, maybe you have a merger and acquisition, and. So you have these changes of the network, maybe due to volume, and then you have to evaluate. So I think it's a valid question to ask, should an industrial company be the champion in network design and optimization? Can an industrial company really keep up with investing in software, methods, and people who can do that better than people who are specialized in it? And the answer from my point of view is, in many cases, no. Then, of course, additional questions should be answered, but in that case, if it kicks in that we understand in these times, due to all the changes we have there every day, that strategic decision-making preparation is not a project job, but a continuous job, then I would say yes, it makes sense to outsource it to a 4PL who is independent from assets, from other things which make me thinking into certain directions, independent from trading and so on, and who is more understood as a business process outsourcing, which I liked at the beginning. You had the high column internally done these jobs, and then the little one 4PL. This is reality. And if I'm asked who is our biggest competitor, and of course that is then the wrong word, it is the client. So we as a 4PL are more a business process outsourcing company for things which could be done in-house too. Yes, I think it can make a lot of sense, and I would be happy to speak about that with you.
This is not a question, this is just holding your glasses. Okay, I see. But there's a question. One more question.
Yeah, does digitalization not jeopardize actually the business model of a 4PL or even a 3PL at the end? And second question, what does disruptive innovation mean to you? Question to Mr. Althoff and Mr. Kriegel.
I think substitution is the way forward. That is what history tells. So our 4PL services consist of people, IT, and different things. So for me, digitalization is something I want to offer you. Usually our clients come to us and they don't only buy people, they buy as well IT and value-added services around that IT. And for me, the advancement of technology is always a chance to position myself better in comparison to our competition. So no, the substitution is a chance, not a threat. And we want to be at the forefront, and we want to be the ones who apply the new possibilities in a way that they add value to our clients first. So that is definitely a role of a good 4PL. Disruption, I think the question should go to you. So I don't feel disrupted by the digital world, but there are a lot of discussions, of course, on new word, 2PLs, or 3PLs, or LLP disrupted by digitalization. I think that's something you should answer better than me.
I would like to answer the question in a different way. I'm very relaxed regarding the discussion, because we can fulfill the requirements. And however, the customer takes the final decision. Also, DAXA sometimes act as a LLP on the market and offer 4PL services. Our core business remains 3PL services. In addition to that, together with a partner, we developed the DAXA LLP Control Tower connectivity platform, and I'm sure that we can, with this platform, follow the demands of clients' projects and extend our LLP Control Tower services.
Okay, thank you. So still you have to move goods. So in this context, you can be relaxed because you have your capacities, you have your resources, you can use them. Still, it has to be moved, but of course, with the digitization, the business models will change. I think this will be not only on the administration level, but also on other levels. A good keyword with 3PL, 4PL, LLP, we had this discussion now with, and I have always the context, if I have looked on the competitors, you, not the clients, your other market players, which also say they are 4PL. Often I think this is marketing. They don't really know what is behind, what do I have to offer. So I don't talk about you, otherwise I wouldn't ask you, because then it would be a real competition here. But if you have a look on the landscape of the different providers of these services, is this still marketing, or is there something behind?
I think to understand what's behind that question, it's important maybe to look back a little bit. I think it was the year 2000 when a company, which to my knowledge doesn't exist in the same format anymore, Arthur Andersen, put up the term 4PL. Not in North America, very usual in that context. And what happened is that this model was developed there much more intensively than here. And what happened in Europe is that a lot of 3PLs, LLPs started to use that term. And I think by using that term for, I would like to use the word market, not marketing, so they marketed this term. This term got used for a little bit different service models than it was originally meant for. And I think that is one of the sometimes a little bit negative connotations which come with the term 4PL, because to be honest, we have every year at 4Flow the discussions, isn't there a better term? Because there's a little bit of a negative connotation at 4PL in the direction of we don't get what we buy. And what is the reason for that? The reason is that it was marketed by companies for things which were not really 4PL. And I think today we are a step further there, and I think we understand much better what is what, and I think that there are valid players in the market who are not a 4PL by nature, but who offer 4PL services, a very good service to potential clients, to their existing clients. I think it's very important to see that. So the nature of the company is not a 4PL company, but 4PL services are offered. And they are pure, I would call it 4PL players, who have a pure 4PL model like us. And if I would be a potential client, but now I would more speak for companies like you, the question is what you want. It's not really a competition so much between DAXA and us from my point of view, because it's totally different models. And the strategic decision is much more made before that. Do I want this? Do I want that? Which kind of services do I need? So no, it's not marketing. I think we still have to do a lot of communication there so that people have the right expectations. So that people who go to Forflow have the right expectation what we can deliver, and that people go to DAXA for a service that is called nearly the same, expect maybe something different. And that both companies go into the right direction, because it's good for us service providers, and there we are in one nutshell again, if we can meet the expectations of our clients.
Thank you.
Chris, I want to remark, we had a question about disruption. Disruption is all over the place, and we read it every day. And somebody also said today the chemical industry is conservative, which is true. And there are very good reasons for that. We don't deal with Coca-Cola, we just deal with sometimes hardcore chemicals. And you must be conservative. You cannot just try out new things in the moment you talk about products. That's the reason why our mentality is so conservative. Nevertheless, I do not see disruptions, but I see a lot of small disruptions. The whole predictive analytics field, for instance, is all the digital method. I see more and more creeping into the business really on a daily basis. So if you now, 10 years from now, look back about this last decade, we will see, at the end of the day, we saw a lot of disruptions. There might be an evolutionary step, but in the sum, I think they will be disruptive. That's just maybe a comment to the question.
Thank you. Put it in a nutshell, you want to change, it should be your mentality to change something, to have something new on your table and try it out. I would close now the discussion with some final questions, if there are some questions from your side, because I imagine we can talk, I think it's still a few hours, won't we? So, but
I have to go on vacation tomorrow, my friend.
So then I will just the last question, just to summarize, maybe all these all of this stuff we have talked about. Well, very special. Just one question per. If a company wants to outsource, Konstantin, this logistics, and you have heard many things here, some comments here on the other side. What would be your recommendation, or how would you summarize it in just a few sentences? If someone is coming to you, so you had the question about what is the potential behind outsourcing these levels? What would you tell him?
I think for me, most important here is to have a clear vision about where I want to go. Where my core competencies, like I said, the one is producing chemicals, the one is producing logistics services. And I think it's very, very important to have a vision where to go. And then to see how can I realize the vision. And then, as you said, for me, I also don't see a lot the difference process-wise with chemical or other industries. Of course, you have another framework that you have to cope with, dangerous goods and all the settings and regulations that you have. But for me, it's a make or buy. And then the question is really, what times are you strong in, and what time you weak where you want to get better and how you can achieve this. This can be with an internal development, or you go on the market and go to a specialist. But of course, talking of outsourcing, never outsource the knowledge about a topic that you want to outsource, because then you're lost. So of course, you have to keep the resources, and this is maybe a misunderstanding. This is a service they can provide in the pyramid, but never should you offer 100%, because then it will cost you help. And of course, the job of the companies is always to have the knowledge on the market who has the best solution. So you always have to have someone who challenges it. And I think also if you have an internal problem, a black box in terms of cost, processes, data, if you want to get an outsourced approach for that one, to get rid of the problem, this will never work. So first, make your homework, set everything okay, you need to understand processes. You then, of course, have also the good negotiation position to find the right partner.
Thank you. And how do you decide, Andreas, about when to outsource something and when to, well, insource is not the right thing, but to keep it inside? Because as I have in mind, you have a project in this context.
Actually, very simple. Also, simple things are, I think, sometimes much better. First of all, I have to make my mind the strategy. What's my logistics or supply chain strategy end to end? Second thing is where can I create the biggest value add? Is it within the company? Is it with somebody else? Because he or she has a much better knowledge, know-how, expertise, whatever. Then I have to put the thing together. We have in our site logistics operation, we are very simple saying, we say everything we can do at least better than an external competition, we do in-house. If not, we just try to find a partner. But you also have to find a partner. And sometimes you do not find appropriate partners that can do it in a better way, then for sure it stays in-house.
And is it possible for chemical companies like you to grow with a partner? So to sit at the table and to discuss how to get a next step in the outsourcing process to hand over an additional service to the partner you're working with?
Absolutely, it depends what they can offer and what we do need. And interesting is for the time being, we have discussion with this capacity restrictions and the volume suggestion. So my market colleagues, they say, you're not thinking about outsourcing, won't you? Because they think everything we can do in-house in a kind of a crisis mode, you always think in, which is also not the right thing. Yes? Because sometimes we have things that are outside, just as more expertise. And then you have to do it like this. And for sure, we also can grow together. In a certain organization, for sure, you have different stakeholders. You have the procurement guys, so they have a different agenda maybe than the guys they have to realize the business. We just try to bring this together because that's an obstacle actually. And then we can also go in more in partnership approaches and develop that.
I would like to add one sentence. In our experience, customers are most successful when they work closely together with the logistics partners and analyze processes together, and afterwards takes the final the right strategic decision. It's for us absolutely must.
Absolutely, you have to listen.
So this was your final statement to summarize the whole discussion here. Do you want to add something? Because this is the best discussion in my point of view if you try to discuss with yourself, and that I don't have to moderate, but something else maybe surprising for you, or according to this outsourcing processes, recommendations or something like that, because you profit or well, you lose something, or you have to compete with this context.
I have one wish. And before I will explain the wish, I would like to summarize something in one or two sentences. For us as a logistics provider, digitalization and production industry 4.0 must go hand in hand with logistics. Because it's the logistics that physically brings the shipments to the customers. And for us, we would like to discuss everything very deeply with our customers and take in the end the right decision.
Okay, thank you. And how would you summarize the discussion here and the outsourcing processes, and what would you recommend chemical companies according to the outsourcing strategy or something like that?
I think I would recommend, going back to my first statement, in the focus the chemical industry has on delivery at the moment, maybe you should look at the market to some companies who have the possibility to add some more focus on creating flexible structures, on doing cost reduction work for you, and who maybe add the piece where you have absolutely no time for at the moment. And we are more than happy to discuss that with every participant in the chemical industry.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Kai Althoff, for the discussion here. Thank you, Andreas Backhaus. Thank you, Michael Kriegel and Konstantin Reuter. It was a pleasure for me. I hope it was also a pleasure for you to have you here on stage, and have a nice lunch. Thank you.
Vielen Dank.